Welcome to SmallCraftCruising. I'm Kurt Ratzlaff, and in this video we'll be exploring Pine Flat Lake near Fresno, California. We're using a 13-foot 1958 Nylox runabout. I began restoring this a few years back in 2016. There's basically one main road to and from Pine Flat Lake called Trimmer Springs Road. You'll find it wide, well paved, and easy to tow a large trailer in and out. Keeping right onto Sunny Slope Road will bring you to the first launch ramp, which has the larger of the two marinas on the lake, as well as a Honey I Forgot store that sells quite an assortment of things that you may have forgotten to bring, and it's the closest and only gas station off of the lake for many miles. Premium gas was $5.06 per gallon compared to the $3.95 at Costco in Carson City, Nevada.
We are at the first ramp here. Basically, you go down this road, you go over a speed bump, then it immediately goes to ramp, and the ramp goes all the way into the water. This has marina, and then bathrooms, and then your pay feed thing. They partake in the life jacket program. There's different recycling for different materials, and then dumpsters if you need them. So these are new. The last time I was at this lake, these didn't exist, and it was a cash system, and it was kind of annoying because I didn't always have cash, or I'd forget to bring cash. So these do take credit cards. It actually says no cash accepted, which is a little annoying, but whatever. Some of the more veteran channel watchers of my channel might recognize this boat and that lake, because my very first video with this boat was here on this ramp, with a little 5-horse outboard engine, testing out just to see how much I liked this boat, to see if it was worth restoring. And obviously, you know, what is it, like 4 years later, 3 years later, I don't really know, but several years later this boat's restored with the new engine and all that, and we are back here with this boat on this lake. That has nothing to do with the video, but it's just kind of like a little fun tidbit of information.
There's definitely enough parking at the top of this ramp, and the length of the walk from the marina depends on how low the water is at the time. Around the marina, there's a decent amount of boat parking, some benches for lunch, restrooms, and a decently large fuel dock. This fuel dock conveniently had both regular and premium fuel. The shop at the marina carries a variety of items and is geared more towards food and snacks rather than parts for your boat. But enough of the marina, it's time to get that boat wet. After clearing the marina, I turned right, or starboard, or due south, and headed towards the dam. It is a little over a mile before you see a sharp curve and a red barrier floating in the water. That red barrier marks the closest you're allowed to go to the dam on the water. With the water as low as it is, we got a pretty decent view of the top of the dam. Continuing north, we take an anti-clockwise circle around the lake towards Zebi Cove, or Zebi Cove, not sure the pronunciation there. Zebi Cove is almost 1.5 miles directly across from Ramp 1 and the marina, and is easily distinguished by its floating toilet. These stations are conveniently numbered with maps in case you get lost on the lake. Continuing anti-clockwise, the lake is almost a mile wide at this point, and there are a bunch of little coves to tuck into along the way. It is rather difficult to get a sense of how big this lake is until you realize that tiny white speck on the horizon is actually another boat. The second floating toilet can be found a full 4 miles from Ramp 1 near Lefevre Creek. It is, of course, a no-wake zone. In my many times to this lake has been a place to find a handful of anchored and beached boats taking a break from all that motoring around.
Okay, so we beached Lee on the very edge here. That's the SS Relief over there. And this is one of the creeks that fills or feeds the lake. The lake is a lot warmer than I was expecting. Woo! So the water in this creek is way colder than the water in the lake. Presumably, since there's really tall mountains with snow all over them, like that way, I'm gonna assume this is the melted snow that's also, you know, near ice cold. I've actually, in all the times I've been to this lake, I've never come up this far. I've never even bothered. So this is the first time for me, and possibly the first time for you ever seeing this. I'm not gonna go too far up there, but you can pretty clearly see what we're working with here. So I will admit, there are a lot of very steep hills and there's not a whole lot of flats, so it's not a great lake for, like, you know, bringing your lawn chair and relaxing, but when it comes to the boating part of it, this is probably one of my favorite boating lakes I've been to in California so far. And let's get back on the boat.
Continuing on, the lake becomes much more narrow, ranging around a quarter mile across for the next 5 or so miles. Just over 2 miles from our stop at that creek, we can just start to see the trimmer campground and last launch ramp for the lake. We will be exploring the ramps individually later in the video, so for now, let's just see how much further we can go. As we round the next bend, the lake continues on, seeming endlessly, winding its way into the mountains. Eventually, the lake does narrow significantly, and I'm not exactly sure where the lake ends and the river begins, but it did not take very long traveling upriver here to find more and more debris, which probably resulted from a very harsh winter we just had.
And here I've hit the end of the road because there's a lot of floating debris. So if you want to go nice and slow and pick your way through that, I think that's fine, but you definitely don't want to do this at full throttle. So let's go back and let's see what's on the other side. We're pretty much at the end of the lake. This boat cruises right at 20 miles an hour, and it took a little over half an hour to get from where I filmed the very quiet part to right here, which, you know, obviously if you can do math, that's a solid 10 miles from back there to the very front of the lake. And we're not even at the front of the lake because the dam's further that way, and we could have gone further upriver if we really wanted to. So, big lake, lots of space.
Now, let's have a look at each of the launch ramps we passed along the way. The road here continues wide and well paved, and it was not long before we got to the second ramp. The road to ramp 2 is tight and narrow, and best kept for smaller trailers. There are again life jacket loaners, toilets, trash cans, and a fee station. However, with the lake as low as it is, the water is nowhere near this ramp, and it's definitely closed for now.
That's the end of the ramp, and way over there is the water. So clearly the second boat ramp is only available when the water's a little bit higher.
Well, on to the third ramp. Here, another steep but less windy road passes by more residences and some boat storage options. The standard toilets, loaner life jackets, and feed stations at the top of the ramp leads to the second marina on the lake. The launch ramp is much smaller here, but still large enough to launch anything that will fit on a trailer. I know very little about this marina, and gaining information was difficult as the gate was closed, disallowing access by car. Even if I put my boat in the water and motored her over, the marina was still closed, and so there wasn't anywhere to talk to anybody to get to know more information about what's here. Moving on to the fourth and final ramp is a much longer drive as the ramp is tucked away in the very back of the lake. But eventually the turn came up and down the narrow road I went. This ramp has the same amenities as the past three and it also has a small campground on the left, and we'll explore that in a minute.
And that boat right there, which is, I don't even know if you can see it, it's so far away, but there's a boat there and it's coming in hot. It's a genuine question of, is it faster to drive to this ramp or boat to the ramp? Because the road to get here, it's a good road, but it's windy, and I was doing about 30 on the road. Which means if your boat can cruise at a speed higher than 30 miles an hour, it might actually be faster to go to a closer to Fresno ramp launch there and then just boat all the way out to whatever you're trying to go to versus driving all the way to this ramp. But that's for you to decide. I don't know what this is going to be like on like a big weekend like Memorial Day, but I can tell you midweek this is dead. There's just nobody here. Now, parking at these more secluded ramps is usually dirt, which is not that bad. It's pretty easy to get over, but you are gonna find some ruts. Like this rut is not bad enough. This car can easily get over it. But if you have a lower to the ground vehicle or something like that, you're gonna have to pick your lines pretty carefully. But overall, the majority of what's here is passable by a standard vehicle.
Lastly, let's have a quick look at that campground.
Well, the road in here is a little narrow, but it's still passable. And these are the campground sites that you'll see. So definitely not good for your 40-foot rig, but if you just got a nice little humble camper setup, I think you'll be just fine.
Thanks for watching Small Craft Cruising. I'm Kurt Ratzlaff, this was Pine Flat Lake, and I will see you in the next video.